Shahzad had always expected life to be predictable. Growing up on Earth, he had spent countless hours dreaming of space, but always in quiet wonder rather than daring adventure. His curiosity was gentle, and he liked the way numbers, patterns, and ideas could explain the world. But when the day of the interstellar partnership ceremony arrived, his calm life took a turn he could never have imagined. The hall was enormous, unlike anything on Earth. Towering crystal walls shimmered with light from thousands of stars projected inside, and the air carried a faint hum that made every heartbeat feel alive. Humans and aliens from countless worlds filled the space, each waiting for the moment that would change their lives. Everyone seemed to buzz with excitement, talking in a dozen different languages, some musical, some rough, some utterly incomprehensible. Shahzad stood at the edge of the gathering, hands folded nervously. He had prepared for this day, of course. But preparation did little to calm the sudden wave of fear when he saw the alien partners he might meet. He had imagined a quiet companion, someone gentle, someone who would match his thoughtful pace. Perhaps a Veyari from a peaceful clan, or a Frail from the cloud cities of Celora. He had not imagined meeting someone who would shake his world completely. The ceremony began with a wave of light. Holoscreens displayed the names of humans, paired with the symbols of their alien partners. One by one, names were called, and gentle, polite aliens approached their human companions. Shahzad watched, fascinated. Some aliens were small, delicate, moving gracefully on tiny legs. Others were tall, covered in feathers or soft scales, their voices melodic. Most humans smiled politely, shaking hands or exchanging respectful gestures with their partners. Shahzad tried to relax. Perhaps he would get a quiet, reasonable partner. That would be fine. That would be safe. Then the announcer called his name. Shahzad Mirza. A ripple of excitement moved through the crowd. Shahzad swallowed hard and stepped forward. The holographic lights converged on him, highlighting a single figure approaching from the other side of the hall. His heart beat faster not just because he was nervous, but because the being walking toward him was unlike anyone he had ever imagined. The alien was tall, taller than even most humans could comfortably reach. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, and her eyes burned with golden light. Her hair, or what seemed like hair, flowed like a cascade of living sparks. She moved with confidence, each step precise and bold, as if the floor itself had no right to resist her weight. Every person in the hall turned to look. Whispers spread. The Veyari princess. The bravest warrior of her people. Who is lucky enough to be paired with her? Veyari. A formance 9. Veyari. Veyari. A formance 9. 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 Shahzad froze for a second, barely able to breathe. That was his partner? He felt a strange mix of awe and terror. The announcer's voice echoed around him. Your partner is Princess Lyra of the Veyari. Lyra stopped a few feet away and looked directly at him. There was no hesitation in her gaze, no nervousness, no uncertainty, only curiosity, and a spark of amusement. So, you are the human I am paired with, she said, her voice musical but firm. I hope you are ready. I do not do slow walks or timid gestures, Shahzad stammered. Yes, of course. I think I can. Keep up? He felt ridiculous even saying it aloud. Lyra tilted her head slightly, a small smile forming at the corner of her lips. You do not need to keep up, she said. You need to think. Humans are clever. I have heard that you solve puzzles even your own people cannot. We will need that where I come from. Shahzad's chest tightened. Here he was, standing next to a fearless alien princess, and she already seemed to understand more about him than he understood about himself. He wondered how he could possibly be enough for her. The ceremony ended with the formal bonding ritual. Though it was symbolic, the bond was considered sacred in interstellar law. Each pair placed a hand or appendage, or energy touch equivalent into a sphere of glowing light. For most humans, this was simple, almost ordinary. But for Shahzad, it felt like stepping into the unknown. Lyra extended her hand, not hesitating for a moment. The moment their hands touched, Shahzad felt a rush of warmth and clarity, as if a door inside him had been opened. It was not magic. Not exactly, it was a connection. A sense of understanding that bridged species and experience. He realized she was not just brave in appearance, she was fearless in her mind, in her willingness to face challenges head-on. And now, somehow, that fearlessness had chosen him as her companion. The hall emptied slowly, and Shahzad followed Lyra to a transport that would take them to her homeworld. He tried to speak, tried to ask about her world, but the words stumbled awkwardly. Lyra, in contrast, talked freely, describing floating cities, the violet seas that glowed at night, and the skyways where her people practiced incredible aerial dances. Every word painted a picture that made Shahzad's imagination race. He had dreamed of space all his life, but nothing had prepared him for this level of wonder. Lyra laughed lightly when she noticed his wide-eyed expression. "Do not be afraid," she said. "The first time I walked the skyway, I nearly fell. You will find your own way. You always do." Shahzad smiled nervously. "I hope so. I've never done anything like this before, and you never will if you do not try," Lyra said simply. Her words were firm, but not unkind. They held a challenge, an invitation, and a promise all at once. When they arrived on Lyra's homeworld, the view from the transport took Shahzad's breath away. The cities floated above shimmering oceans, connected by bridges of light that seemed to pulse with energy. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully between them, leaving trails like ribbons of color in the sky. He realized that the Veyari did not just live in their world, they danced with it, shaped it, and belonged to it in a way humans had never experienced. Lyra led him through the city, explaining traditions, rules, and quirks. Every moment was a lesson, but not in a way that made him feel inferior. She seemed genuinely excited to share her world, and he was both terrified and fascinated by her fearlessness. He tried to keep up, but often stumbled, nearly missing a step on the floating walkways or misreading signals from her people. She never criticized him, only offered a hand, a smile, or a quiet word of encouragement. By evening, they arrived at the palace. It was massive, crystalline, with towers that spiraled upward like frozen streams of water. Inside, Lyra's family welcomed him with warmth and curiosity. Shahzad tried to remember names, customs, and protocols, but he kept fumbling. Yet no one seemed angry or disappointed. They were intrigued by him, fascinated that a human had been paired with their daring princess. Lyra's younger siblings ran around him, laughing and chattering in their musical language. Lyra guided him gently, explaining their words and actions, making sure he felt included rather than overwhelmed. For the first time, Shahzad realized that courage could come in many forms. Fearlessness did not mean rushing into battle or performing daring stunts. It could also mean patience, curiosity, and openness to the unknown. That night, Shahzad lay in his assigned quarters, staring out at the glowing city. His mind replayed every moment of the day, the ceremony, the first touch of Lyra's hand, the awe-inspiring sights of her world. For the first time, he felt small and significant at the same time. Small because he was new, inexperienced, and human among beings of extraordinary abilities. Significant because he had been chosen to walk beside a princess who feared nothing, a being who already saw potential in him that he had not yet discovered. A gentle knock came at the door. Lyra stepped inside, carrying a small device that projected a star map above it. "I thought you might like to see the constellations from here," she said. "Even humans cannot see them all from Earth." Shahzad smiled, feeling a warmth he had not expected. They spent hours pointing out constellations, sharing stories of their worlds, and laughing at the differences in perspective. In those moments, he realized that perhaps being paired with Lyra was not a punishment, nor a challenge to fear. It was an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to find courage in ways he had never imagined. As he drifted to sleep that night, Shahzad understood one undeniable truth. His life had changed forever. And though he did not yet know all the adventures, lessons, and surprises ahead, he felt ready to face them. He would walk beside a fearless alien princess, not as an equal in her skill, but as a partner in spirit, courage, and heart. And somehow, that thought made him feel braver than he had ever been before. The next morning, Shahzad woke to the soft glow of Lyra's world. Sunlight, or something like sunlight, warmer and richer than anything on earth, poured through the crystalline walls of the palace. He rubbed his eyes, feeling both excited and nervous. Today, Lyra promised, he would see the true wonders of her planet. Lyra was already waiting for him in the main hall. Her hair shimmered in the light like molten silver, and her golden eyes sparkled with amusement as she noticed his hesitation. "Ready?" she asked. "We have much to see, and the day waits for no one." Shahzad nodded, trying to steady his nerves. "Yes. I think I am ready." "Think?" she teased, lightly nudging him with her hand. "No time for thinking. You will learn by doing." He followed her outside, and the view stole his breath. The city floated over a vast violet sea that glowed faintly beneath them. Bridges of light connected the buildings, moving gently like ribbons swaying in the wind. Ships of all shapes glided through the sky, leaving shimmering trails behind them. Some were shaped like birds, others like whales, and some were impossible to describe. Shahzad could only gape as they passed. Lyra led him to a skyway, a wide bridge suspended in midair, with no visible support beneath it. Shahzad's stomach flipped. "Is it safe?" he asked. Gripping the railing, Lyra laughed, a bright, musical sound. "Safer than Earth streets," she said. "But you must trust your balance. Fear will only make you stumble." Step by step, Shahzad began walking, following her confident stride. At first, he felt as if his legs were made of lead. Each movement seemed exaggerated. Awkward, Lyra glanced back at him with a small smile. "Breathe. Feel the bridge, not the height. Do you feel it move? It moves with you, not against you." He tried to calm himself, focusing on the gentle sway beneath his feet. Slowly, he began to move with the rhythm of the skyway. Lyra glanced at him with surprise. "You are learning quickly." Humans are clever, indeed. By midday, they reached a garden suspended in the sky. Plants of every color grew in carefully floating plots, their roots wrapped in glowing energy fields instead of soil. Shahzad had never seen anything like it. Some flowers sang when touched, others changed shape in response to movement, and vines twisted themselves into beautiful patterns seemingly on their own. Lyra knelt by a small glowing bush, showing Shahzad how to touch it without startling the plant. "The Veyari have lived with these gardens for centuries," she explained. "Every plant responds to touch, thought, and emotion. You humans do not have this, so it may seem strange." Shahzad reached out carefully, placing his hand on a soft leaf. To his surprise, the bush shivered lightly, then leaned toward him. A small note-like sound filled the air, like a whisper. "It responds," he murmured. Lyra smiled. "See? Patience, gentleness, and curiosity, these are also forms of courage." For hours, they wandered through the floating gardens, Lyra pointing out creatures that glimmered in the sunlight, teaching him names he could barely pronounce. Shahzad tried to repeat them, laughing when he got them wrong. Lyra's laughter echoed, and he found himself relaxing in a way he had never expected. He had imagined fear and failure, but instead, he felt a thrill of discovery. Next, Lyra took him to a training arena, not for fighting, but for skill and agility. She handed him a simple tool, a small floating orb that responded to thought and motion. "Your task," she explained, "is to guide the orb through the course using only your mind. No touching. Only focus and patience." Shahzad frowned. This was completely unlike anything he had ever done. He concentrated, feeling the orb hover above the floor, It wobbled, dipped, and twisted, and for a moment he thought it would crash. Then, slowly, it responded to his thoughts, moving in the direction he intended. Lyra clapped, her excitement obvious. I see. You are clever not only with your hands but with your mind. This is exactly what the Veyari need in partnership. Hours passed in a blur of lessons, discoveries, and gentle challenges. Lyra guided him through skyways, gardens, and observatories. She told him stories of her people, their adventures, and their history. Shahzad listened, fascinated, absorbing details that no human history book had ever taught him. And though he stumbled many times, Lyra never scolded or judged him. Her encouragement was patient but firm, pushing him to discover what he was capable of. By evening, they reached a quiet cliffside overlooking the violet sea. The sun, or the bright star in their sky, began to set, painting the clouds in shades of gold and pink. Lyra sat cross-legged, beckoning him to join her. Shahzad hesitated, then followed, feeling the gentle warmth of the cliff beneath him. Do you like it? Lyra asked, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. It's incredible, he said. I never imagined anything like this. Lyra tilted her head. You thought you would have a quiet partner, didn't you? Shahzad smiled sheepishly. I thought I might have someone like me. Calm, careful, predictable. Lyra laughed softly. Predictable is boring. And life is not meant to be predictable. You are not predictable either. Shahzad, that is why you were chosen. You have courage, even if you do not see it yet. You think before you act, you notice things others miss. And you care. That is more valuable than fearlessness. Shahzad felt a warmth in his chest. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. He had always been quiet, always careful, always waiting for others to lead. And now, an alien princess, a being of incredible courage and power, was telling him that his way of being mattered. They stayed there until the first stars appeared, small points of light twinkling above the glowing sea. Lyra leaned back on her hands, looking up. Do you see those? She asked. Each star is home to someone, something, a story. Some are friends, some are strangers, some are danger. But all are connected in ways we cannot see at first. Shahzad nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He realized that his life had changed completely. He had been brought here, far from Earth, paired with someone extraordinary, and yet, instead of being overwhelmed, he felt a growing sense of possibility. He could learn, he could grow, he could belong. As the night deepened, Lyra stood and stretched, her movements graceful and confident. Tomorrow, we explore the sky market, she said. There, you will meet more of my people and see how Veyari trade, negotiate, and create. It will be chaotic, colorful, and loud. Are you ready? Shahzad hesitated. I think so. I will try my best. Lyra smiled, a small, approving smile that made his chest feel lighter. That is all I ask. Fear does not matter. Only willingness to try. Shahzad went to sleep that night with his mind full of the wonders he had seen and the lessons he had learned. The fear of being out of place was still there, but it was softer now, replaced by excitement and curiosity. For the first time, he understood that being paired with a fearless alien princess was not about matching her abilities. It was about discovering his own. He dreamed of floating gardens, glowing bridges, and golden eyes looking at him with curiosity and encouragement. He dreamed of learning to trust himself, of discovering courage in small steps, of becoming part of something larger than his own expectations. By the time he awoke, Shahzad knew one thing for certain. Life with Lyra would never be ordinary. Every day would bring challenges, discoveries, and moments of wonder. And for the first time, he felt ready to face them. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The bond they shared was no longer just a ceremony or a rule of law. It was a partnership built on curiosity, trust, and mutual respect. And as Shahzad followed Lyra once again into the vibrant streets of her world, he realized that this partnership would change him in ways he had never imagined, and that perhaps, in a quiet, steady way, he could match her fearlessness in his own human way. The day ahead promised adventure, lessons, and surprises. But Shahzad no longer felt afraid. For the first time, he felt alive, capable, and ready to grow. And walking beside Lyra, the fearless alien princess, he began to see that courage was not only for warriors, it was for anyone willing to embrace the unknown. The morning air on Lyra's world was crisp and alive with color. Shahzad awoke feeling a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. Today, Lyra promised, they would explore the Sky Market, a place that was both chaotic and magical, where all kinds of aliens traded, created, and shared ideas. Shahzad had no idea what to expect, but he knew one thing. This would be a test of his courage, patience, and willingness to learn. Lyra was already waiting for him in the grand hall, her hair shimmering in the early light. Her golden eyes sparkled with anticipation, and she tilted her head playfully as she saw Shahzad's hesitance. "Ready to face the market?" she asked. Shahzad swallowed and nodded. "I think so. I hope I can keep up," Lyra laughed softly. "Keeping up is not the goal. Learning is. Observing, understanding, and participating in ways you never imagined, that is what matters." Hand in hand, they left the palace and stepped onto the bridges of light that connected the floating cities. Shahzad could not stop staring. Ships and creatures moved in every direction, weaving through the sky like ribbons of color. Below, the violet sea shimmered, reflecting the light of the sun in brilliant patterns. He had never seen anything like this. The Sky Market itself was even more astonishing. Stalls floated in the air, held up by invisible energy fields. Merchants sold glowing fruits, musical fabrics, and tools that responded to thought. Some displayed living art that changed colors and shapes depending on the observer's emotions. Shahzad felt overwhelmed, unsure where to look first. Lyra guided him through the crowd, introducing him to merchants and artists with a confidence that made him feel both proud and small. "Observe first," she advised. "Notice how they interact, how they trade. Humans often rely on money or words, but here, intention and honesty matter most." A small vendor, a frail with translucent wings, offered Shahzad a glowing fruit that floated above his palm. Hesitant, he reached out. The fruit moved slightly, adjusting to his hand, as if testing him. Lyra nudged him gently. "Trust yourself. The fruit will respond if your intention is honest." Shahzad concentrated, imagining holding it gently without harming it. Slowly, it settled into his palm. A soft hum filled the air, and the frail nodded approvingly. Shahzad's face lit up with surprise. "I did it," he whispered. Lyra smiled warmly. "You see? Courage is not only physical. Patience, focus, and care are just as important." They continued through the market, Shahzad growing more confident with each interaction. He helped a Vayari child untangle a living ribbon of light, impressed a merchant with his careful observations, and even guided a floating orb through a delicate obstacle course. Each success, small though it seemed, added to his sense of accomplishment. He realized that courage could take many forms, and that being human gave him unique strengths in a world of extraordinary beings. By midday, Lyra led him to a quiet courtyard, where artisans created intricate mosaics from glowing crystals. She encouraged him to try. At first, Shahzad hesitated, unsure how to place the pieces correctly. His fingers trembled as he arranged the crystals. But Lyra simply watched, offering gentle guidance when needed. "You do not need to be perfect," she said softly. "Your perspective is valuable. Humans see patterns others do not. Let your mind guide you, not your fear." Slowly, Shahzad began to arrange the crystals in patterns that seemed to flow naturally. To his surprise, the mosaic began to glow, responding to his choices. He felt a rush of pride and wonder. Lyra clapped lightly, her golden eyes shining. Excellent. You have more courage and creativity than you realize. That is why we were paired. As the sun began to set, they wandered to a floating platform overlooking the sea. The sky had turned shades of gold, pink, and deep violet. Lyra sat cross-legged and gestured for Shahzad to join her. Do you see what I mean about courage? She asked. Shahzad nodded slowly. I think so. Courage is not only rushing into danger or doing what others cannot. It is also patience, careful observation, and willingness to try something new. Lyra's smile widened. Exactly. And humans excel at these things in ways even we cannot. That is why your presence here is so important. Together, we can do more than either of us could alone. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a small commotion in the market below. A group of young Veyari were struggling to lift a heavy container of glowing water, and the crowd watched uncertainly. Shahzad felt a spark of instinctive concern. He looked at Lyra, who nodded. Go. Help them. You have learned more than you realize today. Shahzad took a deep breath and ran toward the crowd. His heart pounded, but he felt steady in a way he had never felt before. Using his careful observations and understanding of leverage, he guided the Veyari children in lifting the container safely. The crowd cheered lightly, and the children laughed. Lyra approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. See? Courage can be quiet, unnoticed by many, yet it changes everything. As night fell, they returned to the palace. Shahzad was exhausted but exhilarated. He had faced the unfamiliar, learned new skills, and discovered strength in his human perspective. Lyra noticed his thoughtful expression and led him to a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Today, you learned something important, she said. You learned that fearlessness is not only for those who are bold in action. It is also for those who see, understand, and act with care. Humans have this in abundance. That is why we were bonded. Shahzad thought about the day, about the challenges, the successes, and the lessons. He realized he had grown in ways he had never expected. The bond with Lyra was no longer a mystery or a burden. It was a partnership built on trust, respect, and mutual discovery. Lyra leaned back on the railing, looking out at the horizon. Tomorrow, we will explore the Great Library. There, you will see knowledge preserved for centuries. Perhaps you will find new ideas, ways to solve problems, and understand the universe in ways humans have never imagined. Shahzad nodded, feeling both anticipation and determination. He no longer felt like a human who was out of place. He felt like a participant in a grand adventure, a partner to a fearless alien princess, and someone whose own courage mattered. That night, he lay awake thinking about all he had learned. He remembered the floating gardens, the living art, the glowing fruits, and the delicate mosaics. Each experience had challenged him, pushed him to try, and shown him that courage was multifaceted. He realized that being human was not a limitation, it was a gift. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. Together, we can do more than either of us could alone. The thought filled him with warmth. He understood now that he was not merely following Lyra's lead. He was contributing, learning, and growing. He had something unique to offer, and for the first time, he felt confident in that. The next morning, Shahzad awoke with renewed determination. Lyra was already waiting, her hair glowing in the dawn light. She handed him a small device, projecting a holographic map of the city. Today, the Great Library awaits. You will see knowledge from countless worlds. Some of it will challenge your mind. Some will inspire your imagination. And some will require your own cleverness to understand. Shahzad took the device, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I will do my best, he said, though he now understood that best was not about perfection. It was about trying, learning, and discovering new strengths. The journey to the library took them through narrow skyways, bustling markets, and quiet terraces. Along the way, Lyra introduced him to scholars, engineers, and artists. Shahzad observed carefully, asked questions, and learned more in a few hours than he had in months on Earth. He realized that fearlessness could be shared, taught, and even enhanced when paired with curiosity and empathy. Arriving at the great library, Shahzad was awestruck. Towers of light stretched high above them, filled with floating books, energy scrolls, and holographic records. Aliens of all kinds moved gracefully among the archives, sharing knowledge, debating ideas, and creating new innovations. Lyra guided him to a section devoted to interstellar engineering. Shahzad studied the designs, asked questions, and offered ideas. Lyra's people were impressed by his unique perspective, his ability to notice patterns and connections they had overlooked. She watched him proudly, understanding that their partnership was strengthening not only him, but their combined potential. By evening, Shahzad felt tired, yet exhilarated. He had learned, contributed, and grown. Lyra led him to a quiet rooftop, overlooking the glowing city. "You are doing well," she said simply. "Do not forget, courage is not about never being afraid. It is about trying even when you are afraid. You have done this today." Shahzad smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced fear, embraced the unknown, and discovered that he had a place in this world, a place beside Lyra, the fearless princess, not as a follower, but as a true partner. As night fell, he looked up at the stars, feeling hope, excitement, and a quiet pride. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready. Together with Lyra, he knew they could face anything not through brute strength, but through courage, creativity, and trust. And for the first time, Shahzad felt that he was truly alive. The next morning, Aiden woke up earlier than usual. Even though he had barely slept, his mind kept replaying everything that happened the night before. The bond test had reacted only to him. The council members had exchanged long looks. The scanning device had changed from blue to white, and the room had filled with a soft hum that sounded almost alive. They all understood what that meant. Aiden remembered the moment Princess Soraya placed her hand on his shoulder. Her expression calm, but serious. Nothing violent or dangerous had happened, but something important had shifted between them. He could not deny the truth anymore. He was no longer just a random student pulled from Earth. He was connected to someone whose life carried responsibility, expectations, and pressure far beyond his own. Aiden sat up in the guest room bed, rubbing his eyes. He did not feel afraid. He felt strange, but not scared. Something inside him felt steady, as if a small part of Soraya's confidence was echoing faintly within him. Maybe it was because of the bond. Maybe it was because he wanted to stand beside her, even if he didn't fully understand why. Before he could think further, the door chimed softly. He stood up and opened it to see Soraya standing there, looking calmer than she had been in days. Her long silver hair was pulled back, and she wore a simple outfit instead of royal clothing. She looked almost normal like this, almost. She asked if she could come in, and Aiden stepped aside. She walked inside slowly, her eyes moving around the room before settling back on him. Then she said she wanted to talk about what happened. Aiden nodded, ready to listen. She explained that the bond test's reaction was rare, extremely rare. In their culture, only a true resonance of mind and emotion could cause the device to glow white. She told him that it did not force anything. It did not demand marriage or a relationship. It simply meant that he and she had matched in a way the system recognized as harmonious, honest, and deeply balanced. Aiden tried to understand. She spoke softly, choosing simple words, almost as if she wanted to make things easy for him. Aiden told her he didn't fully understand what the bond meant for her life. She said she didn't completely understand either, not yet. But she also told him she wasn't scared of it. She looked straight into his eyes and told him that meeting him had changed the way she saw herself. She had spent years learning to appear strong and fearless, but she never expected to find someone who made her feel calm without trying. No partner, the council suggested, ever made her feel that way. Only weaves of politics, expectations, and forced alliances existed before. Aiden was the first person who treated her as normal. and she appreciated that more than she could say. Aiden blushed but didn't look away. He admitted that he felt something when she touched him during the test, as if their thoughts aligned for a tiny second. It was not dramatic or loud, just a quiet feeling of understanding. Soraya smiled gently. She said that was exactly what her people valued. Quiet understanding mattered more than anything dramatic. After talking for some time, Soraya invited him to join her at the training fields. She said her personal guards wanted to meet him officially. Aiden hesitated, imagining a group of tall, armored aliens staring at him, but she reassured him they were friendly and curious, not dangerous. So he agreed. The training fields were huge and bright, filled with warm sunlight from their artificial dome sky. A group of tall guards stood in a semicircle, each wearing light silver armor that shimmered softly. They all looked at Aiden with polite curiosity. No one frowned. No one seemed upset. They simply wanted to see the person their princess had bonded with. One of the guards stepped forward and introduced himself as Captain Thalos. His voice was deep but kind. He told Aiden that any person who earned Princess Soraya's trust automatically earned their respect. Aiden felt both relieved and surprised. Thalos then asked if Aiden had any experience in physical training. Aiden scratched his head and admitted he had only basic exercise habits. The captain nodded thoughtfully and said they could teach him simple techniques that would help him adapt more easily to their environment. Soraya guided Aiden through breathing exercises first. The air of the palace planet was slightly different from Earth's air. Richer in some elements, lighter in others. She showed him how to breathe deeply without feeling dizzy. Aiden followed, doing his best. After a while, he felt surprisingly clear-headed. The guards noticed and gave small approving nods. Soraya looked proud of him, which made Aiden straighten his posture automatically. As they trained, Soraya explained small things about her people. Their belief in balance, their culture of honesty, their focus on emotional harmony rather than forced power. Aiden realized how gentle her world was behind the shiny technology. He also realized how lonely she must have been growing up with so many expectations on her shoulders. When the training ended, Soraya walked with him through a quiet garden near the palace. The garden was full of glowing plants, each giving off soft light like floating lanterns. She told him she came here whenever she needed to think. She said she brought him because she wanted him to know that he mattered, that the bond wasn't something she took lightly. Aiden felt warmth spread through his chest, and he told her he was glad she trusted him this much. He said he didn't know what the future held, but he wasn't going to leave her alone to face everything. Her eyes softened, and she told him that no matter what happened next, she was happy he walked into her life, even if it happened by accident. Aiden laughed and said that being pulled into a portal during a school experiment was the strangest accident he'd ever heard of. She laughed too, and for a moment, it felt like they were just two normal people sharing a calm afternoon. The peaceful moment didn't last long because a messenger arrived with news. The council wished to speak with them again. Aiden's heart jumped a little, but Soraya stayed calm. She told him not to worry. The council simply wanted to discuss what the bond test meant for future arrangements. She reassured him that nothing would be forced. He nodded and followed her. Inside the council chamber, the elders looked less tense this time. One of them spoke gently, explaining that the bond created a shared responsibility. Aiden was not required to live in the palace forever. He was not forced into any role. Instead, he was invited to participate in cultural exchange, learning their ways while they learned his. Soraya would guide him, and he would help her understand human perspectives. Aiden agreed, saying he wanted to learn everything he could. The elders also asked Soraya if she wanted to keep the bond active. She looked at Aiden before answering. Then she told them yes. She wanted the bond. She wanted to explore what it meant. She wanted to grow from it. Aiden swallowed and said softly that he also wanted the bond. Not because he felt obligated, but because he felt something honest and real between them. The council marked their decision in the records, and the chamber lights brightened slightly, signaling approval. Aiden felt a weight lift off his shoulders. Everything was official. But nothing felt heavy or scary. It all felt like a new beginning. After leaving the chamber, Soraya walked with him through the long hallway. She turned to him and told him that from now on, he would have access to any part of the palace he wished to explore. He would have teachers, guides, and full support. She told him he could even return to Earth for visits if he wanted, and the palace would arrange safe transport. Aiden thanked her, but he also said that for now he wanted to stay. He wanted to learn more about her world, more about her. Soraya smiled, and there was something warm in her eyes that hadn't been there before. That evening, they ate dinner together in a quiet room with soft music playing. They talked about small things, favorite foods, strange habits, dreams they'd had as children. Soraya admitted she used to sneak out of lessons when she was younger, even though she was always caught. Aiden admitted he once tried to build a rocket out of cardboard boxes and failed miserably. They laughed until their stomachs hurt. As the day ended, Aiden felt peaceful. Not confused, not overwhelmed, just peaceful. He realized that his life had changed completely, but it wasn't frightening. It was exciting, warm, and full of possibility. He didn't know where this bond would lead them, but he knew he wanted to walk that path with Soraya. Soraya stood beside him near the balcony, looking out at the two moons above the palace. She said softly that she believed people were brought together for a reason. Aiden nodded, feeling the gentle truth in her words. He didn't need dramatic proof. He didn't need a big sign. He only needed the quiet certainty growing in his heart. He looked at her and smiled. She smiled back, and in that calm, glowing moment, the two of them stepped into their shared future. Uncertain, unexpected, but beautifully balanced.